Hello, BookTube. Well, I'm coming here with my last video of the day, I promise. And also the last book haul of March. It's snowing here in Boston, but it didn't stop the mailman, so I thought we'd go through them together. And then we'll be done with yet another month of book hauls. I've lost track of how many books it is, but Sam at Sam's Nonsense made me a great spreadsheet, and it never forgets anything. So somewhere there is the ability on that spreadsheet for me to count how many books I got in March. I have no idea how many it is, but we've seen a lot of them. We've got a fairly good sized stack here, and it ends with a box. So we'll go out with a bang here. And then tomorrow is April. It's going to be freezing cold and snowing here in Boston, so it's not going to feel like April, but nevertheless, on the calendar. So what do we got here? Oh, fantastic. All right, first one is a winner. It's also April 4th. Those of you who've been watching my last few videos, you know that every single book in April is coming out on the 4th of April. So I set up my April bookshelf by date from left to right so that I know which books are coming out earlier in the month, which comes out later in the month for reviewing purposes. And the whole thing is going to be April 4th. The whole shelf is going to be. But this is by Kathy Chamberlain, and it is Jane Welsh Carlyle and Her World. The wife of Thomas Carlyle, the famous historian who wrote the French Revolution, but also an amazing thinker and writer on her own. Her journals, when I read the advance copy of this, I loved it so much that I went back to her journals, and they're amazingly good. There's a living, completely vibrant, immediate voice going all through those journals. It's great. And this is a fantastic biography of her. It's the biography that she has really been waiting a century to get. And I am going to be reviewing it, I think, for the Christian Science Monitor. I will let you know the closer we get to the day. But I'm very happy to have a finished copy. I've mentioned on this channel before, when reviewing a serious work of nonfiction, you really want a finished copy so that you can prowl through the bibliography and the notes and check everything that the author has done. I always like to work from a finished copy. I'm reviewing right now Sally Biddell Smith's new biography of Prince Charles, and I'm working in that particular review. I'm working from an ARC that doesn't have any critical apparatus to it at all. But when it comes to a big fat biography of Prince Charles, I don't really need it. so I can do just fine without it. But Jane Welsh Carlyle and Her World, I'm going to want a bibliography and notes for that. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on to the next one here. Okay, good. It's a thriller. It's a Jim Brody thriller. The Spy Across the Table by Barry Lancet. What have we got here? Jim Brody is an antiques dealer, Japan expert, and second-generation private investigator. When two theater friends are murdered backstage at a Kennedy Center performance in Washington, D.C., he's devastated and determined to hunt down the killer. And he's not the only one. Very nice. All right, this comes out in June. Always up for a thriller. I will read it long before June, and then if it's got the right stuff, I will send it along to the mystery Marvin of Open Letters, Irma Heldman, the mighty Irma. If I read something that strikes me as an Irma book, something that she'll particularly like and might not have on her own, I will send it to her. But anyway, let's move on. This next one is pleasingly heavy. We're getting the poor viewers of BookTube are getting bombarded left and right and center with book openings and new book talk between me and Simon Savage. I don't know what you're going to do. Your TBRs will never recover because he I don't know if you saw. I'll try to remember to leave a link. He made a March haul of books in which he noted that he got over 200 books from publishers, a huge number of them unsolicited. And, you know, he has a very popular podcast. He's had one of the best book blogs, in the English language for a decade. He's a prospering YouTube channel. He's out and about all the time, knows all sorts of people in the publishing world, has a large audience of people who, respect his opinion about books that really get him going. I don't doubt that he gets that many books in the mail. And here you come to this channel, you see even more new books in the mail. What are you going to do? But we are what we are. We can't change it. So this next one comes out in April. And this is not something I requested. It's from the Harvard University Press. And it's by Nathaniel Frank. And it's called Awakening: How Gays and Lesbians Brought Marriage Equality to America. Look at that. There's a rainbow flag in front of a courthouse. The courthouse. The Civil War, the Supreme Court courthouse. So this will, I don't know, you can't make out the details and you wouldn't care anyway, but that means that this is probably going to be the only book I get in April that has William Howard Taft on the cover. You have to squint really hard. Take my word for it. All right, so the right of same-sex couples to marry provoked decades of intense conflict before it was upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court in 2015. Yet some of the most divisive contests shaping the quest for marriage equality occurred not only on the culture war front lines, but within the ranks of the LGBTQ advocates. Nathaniel Frank tells the dramatic story of how an idea that once seemed unfathomable, and for many gays and lesbians undesirable, became a legal and moral right in just half a century. Great. So this is a history as well as a modern study. I of course don't need to tell you all that something being enshrined as a right by the U.S. Supreme Court doesn't quite mean what it used to mean. And so, if we here in America, we are going to have an uninterrupted and punitive, arch-conservative, alt-right Republican hegemony from now on. That thanks to voter restriction and district gerrymandering, that is never going to change. So, and if you look at what state-level, arch-conservative, thoroughly corrupt and evil, alt-right Republican governments have done to, for instance, the Supreme Court guaranteed right of a woman to an abortion, you'll see that marriage equality is not at all, just because it's carved in stone by the Supreme Court doesn't mean it's safe. So it's an unfolding story is what I'm saying, and Nathaniel Frank has written a history of it up until now, and that's great. I will really hope when I'm reading the book that he doesn't strike a tone of, boy, I'm glad we've arrived, because that would be very premature. But let's see. Let's move on to the next one. This is also very plump. So Steve likes plump books. Let's see what this one is. But I have to assume that when it comes to my channel or Simon's channel or Thomas at SFF 180, these channels that, in the course of natural evolution, we talk to the camera, we have all of our natural interests, but in the course of the way that a channel naturally evolves, we and other channels have evolved into places where you go to see a bunch of new books, a bunch of new and forthcoming books. There's no bragging involved, and there's no, look what I have that you don't have. Simon and Thomas, I'm sure, just want to show you the latest things that strike their fancy or that they read and really liked, and so do I. And I of course, go the one step further, and then I'm perfectly happy to mail you whatever I'm not using. So there's not that, but I am curious. I'm always curious to know. I mean, that is fairly new for BookTube. For non-YA titles, forthcoming titles to just be held up in great abundance for you to look at. And I'm wondering, do you like that? You might. Well, you certainly like it on this channel. But do you like it in general? Seeing that that people connected to the publishing industry or Will from Vintage Blogs, although he's leaving Vintage Blogs, but who knows what he'll do for Waterstones. But people like that, channels like that. I always wonder when I see more and more of them. If the rest of you are okay with that, and I assume you are. I'm certain you would sound off to me if you weren't, but now that you're seeing other channels, we'll discuss it in some Last Week in BookTube, and I'll bore you then. So what is this? What is this next thing here? Oh my goodness gracious! Oh my. Okay, this is a new an annotated English language translation of Bhakti Yoga, Tales and Teachings from the Bhagavata Purana, and this is translated with an extensive introduction and notes by Edwin Bryant. Who is Edwin Bryant when he's at home? Studied at Manchester University and the University of London. Camera's acting up here. All right. And received his PhD from Columbia University. He has taught in the religion department at Harvard University and Columbia, and since 2001 has been professor of religion at Rutgers University. He's written numerous scholarly articles and reviews, and has translated 6 books. Wow, and he's translated the Bhakti Yoga. How fascinating. So this comes out in July. I highly doubt that the Christian Science Monitor will want me to review it, but you never know. Somebody else might. So I will give it a try. I believe that I've already pestered some of you who live in India to scour your social networks and find me a contact that maybe knows somebody who knows somebody in the books department of the Hindu. I would very much like to review books in India. It's my own fault. I know. I realize that when I lived in India, I had no thought for reviewing books. I thought I would never go back to the life of reviewing books. So I didn't bother to try and make any first-hand contacts myself. I should have, but it never crossed my mind. And I'm never going back to that beautiful, beautiful country. So I'm going to need the rest of you to do my dirty work for me. I would like to be published everywhere. But anyway, let's move on. Let's move on here. What is this next one? Okay, this is by Jonathan Taplin. It's not something that I requested. It comes out in April, of course. And Jonathan Taplin is the Director Emeritus of the Annenberg Innovation Lab at the University of Southern California and a former tour manager for Bob Dylan. I imagine those two things go together. As well as a film producer for Martin Scorsese, Wim Wenders, and Gus Van Sant. An expert in digital media entertainment, Taplin is a member of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences and sits on the California Broadband Task Force. And Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti's Council on Technology and Innovation. Wow, okay, so the book is Move Fast and Break Things. The subtitle is How Facebook, Google, and Amazon Cornered Culture and Undermined Democracy. And if I had read that before I read his biography, I would have said, oh, come on, in 200 pages, aren't you biting off more than you can chew? It sounds like this guy knows what he's talking about. So I will probably move this to the front of the list. What have we got here? Move Fast and Break Things is the riveting account of a small group of libertarian entrepreneurs who in the 1990s began to hijack the original decentralized vision of the internet. In the process, creating 3 monopoly firms, Facebook, Amazon, and Google, that now determine the future of the music, film, and television publishing and news industries. Jonathan Taplin offers a succinct and powerful history of how online life began to be shaped around the values of the men who founded these companies. Overlooking piracy of books, music, and film while hiding behind opaque business practices and subordinating the privacy of individual users in order to create the surveillance marketing monoculture in which we now live. And that was written before the new decision by the U.S. Congress that allows those companies to buy all of your information, everything that you've ever done online, your search history, everything that has ever been captured and on any site. All that gigantic bundle, your life online, your self, which is composed not of cells but of information, can now be sold into digital slavery legally, thanks to a decision made by the Republican Congress. You can go on YouTube and watch, half a dozen Democratic senators pounding pulpits late at night, long after it do any good, long after the vote was out, saying, "How on earth could you do this? What were you thinking?" And those people aren't naive. They know the answer to their question, of course. The Republican Congress that we have in America now is motivated by one thing and one thing only. And every single one of those Republican senators who voted to sell your ISP information received enormous amounts of money from the companies who will directly financially benefit from buying that information. Congress in 2017 doesn't even try to hide it anymore. So, there is no hope for your internet privacy now. The only slim hope is that Democrats can gain back enough seats to maybe put pressure, to maybe amend legislation a bit, and that maybe some Democratic, power brokers on the state level will be able to amend things maybe a bit, but the door is open now. So We're going to start to see, you'll start to see changes here on YouTube in no time at all. Because the companies that are involved have been waiting for this legislation to go through. They know exactly what they're going to do. That's not like they're going to say, oh, we won a victory, we'd better make some plans. And this book is all about that. Wow, how prescient. Good Lord. This is good luck for Jonathan Taplin. Bad luck for the rest of us. Bad luck for him as well, because now I can go online, find a gray market entrepreneur who is willing for the right amount of money to buy Jonathan Taplin's information. I can do that. Not Comcast. I can do that. Something that's available to buy. There's no way that you can say, you can make something available to buy and then say, but only to these certain people. That's not how buying things works. Once something is available to buy, anybody can buy it. They just have to find a way. The only way you can stop anybody from buying something is if you make it not available for anybody to buy. And it's not anymore. So with sufficient money and time and effort, I could tomorrow learn about Jonathan Taplin things that literally 2 days ago I could not have had a way to learn. I can learn what kind of porn he likes and how much he spends on it. I can learn whether or not he's bought plane tickets that his wife doesn't know about, whether or not he's behind on his mortgage payment. I can probably trace emails, images that have been downloaded, videos that have been uploaded. So this book couldn't be any better timed. I will probably move it up in the reading, just to depress the heck out of me. Then we got one of these big white things. When you see these on, for instance, SFF 180, they're always some new marquee science fiction or fantasy title, but I don't tend to get those. I wish I did. All right, so this is another work of nonfiction. That's what you're going to get on this channel, right? I mean, you're going to get just on the channels that are obsessing me at the moment, you're going to get science fiction and fantasy on Thomas's channel. You're going to get, with Simon, he's all over the map, but it's going to be mostly fiction. And with this channel, for good or ill, I think it's going to be mostly nonfiction because, I mean, a lot of this stuff is coming to me through Open Letters Monthly, the literary journal where I am the managing editor and where I determine what I will review. And, you know, not only do I make requests for a lot of books, but even when I don't, publishers notice what I read and what I review. And also, you know, I am now a fixture at the Christian Science Monitor, and at the Christian, you look at the books that I've done what? 25, I think, since 2017 began, 25, 26, 30, something like that. And out of those 25 or 30, the huge majority, 95%, have been works of nonfiction, serious histories, biographies, that sort of thing. And that gets noticed too. So, not that you're not complaining, so I don't know why I'm defending myself. Anyway, this new one is, I don't need to check the date, right? It's April 4th. This is Locking Up Our Own, Crime and Punishment in Black America by James Forman, with barbed wire running down the front of the cover. James Forman is a professor of law at Yale Law School. He was a former clerk for Justice Sandra Day O'Connor and spent 6 years as a public defender in Washington, D.C. Okay, so this is going to be a story about black incarceration. In recent years, America's criminal justice system has become the subject of an increasingly urgent debate. Critics have assailed the rise of mass incarceration, emphasizing its disproportionate impact on people of color. As James Forman points out, however, the war on crime that began in the 1970s was supported by many African Americans in the nation's urban centers. In Locking Up Our Own, he seeks to understand why. Okay. All right. Also very timely. Also very germane. All right, so good. This has been fine so far. And now we get to the box, which is this thing here. It's big, but it's not particularly heavy. It might be a paperback. Oh, God. What have we got here? Let's see if that's enough. Packing material. Oh no, it's a hardcover. It's a hardcover. Oh, fantastic! Oh, good. This comes out in April. And this is the pretty finished copy of Jefferson, Architect of American Liberty by John Boles. I think we saw the advanced copy of this. But in between then and now, I've learned that I will be reviewing this for the Christian Science Monitor. So that's fantastic. It's a nice big... I read the advanced copy and loved it. So it's a nice big major new biography of Jefferson. You can't go wrong there. so that let's see. That's what we have for today. We have a big new biography of Jefferson. We have Locking Up Our Own by James Forman. We have Move Fast and Break Things by Jonathan Taplin. We have the Bhakti Yoga in a brand new annotated English language translation. We have Awakening by, who's that? Nathaniel Frank. We have A Spy Across the Table, which kind of looks a little funny in this company, doesn't it? And we have a big new biography of Jane Welsh Carlyle. So a biography at the bottom, a biography at the top, and a lot of social issues in the middle. I don't usually get all that at one time, but that's fine by me. So that's it for now. That is our last book haul of March. And I will see you soon with all sorts of other stuff. Thank you, BookTube.